There's also cuts to the Affordable Care Act subsidies, and there's estimates of nearly 200,000 Alabamians losing health coverage as a result of these changes.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
There's a lot of news to catch up on, so we wanted to start today's show with headlines from across Sweet Home, Alabama. You know, we've got new laws that are starting, potential laws already being proposed for next year, and then some updates in education, the economy, the justice system, and of course, politics. So several new laws from the legislative session went into effect on July 1st. In good news, that does include paid parental leave for state and education employees, which is a big win for workers' rights and family values. In 2023, the legislature passed a bill by House Minority Leader Anthony Daniels, Democrat from Huntsville, to exempt overtime pay from the state income tax. And it was very popular among a lot of unions. After it cost more than anticipated, lawmakers let the exemption expire on June 30th, which is a sunset date added to the bill back in 2023 because of uncertainty about how much it would affect school funding. In other tax news, lawmakers did pass a bill to reduce the state sales tax on food from 3% to 2%, estimated to save taxpayers about $120 million a year. And another bill will exempt diapers, baby formula, feminine hygiene products, and other items known as the pink tax from the state sales tax, which is 4%. That's expected to save taxpayers about $13 million a year. And both that food tax reduction and the baby product exemption take effect September 1st. Now, another new law that's getting a lot of news in Alabama is HB 445, which bans the sale and possession of all smokable hemp products, as well as some hemp gummies and drinks. Violations will be a Class C felony, punishable by up to 1 to 10 years in prison. Now, several businesses sued to block it, but were denied a temporary restraining order by a Montgomery County judge. While more and more states across the country are legalizing recreational marijuana, Alabama is moving backwards in banning federally legal hemp products and killing businesses and jobs in the process, with law enforcement raids on hemp businesses already occurring. A bill by Senator April Weaver is pre-filed for next year and would go even further, classifying all THC taken from hemp as a controlled substance, banning the products entirely. And so that leads us into the 2026 session, which starts in January, and there's already some pre-filed bills and discussions starting. State Senator Gerald Allen, a Republican from Tuscaloosa, has proposed an amendment to the Alabama Memorial Preservation Act, which is designed to prevent removal of Confederate monuments. Pre-filed this year is Senate Bill 6. His amendment would change the financial penalty from a one-time fee of $25,000 to a daily fee of $5,000 on municipalities that remove a monument. So instead of a one-time line item of $25K, a city looking to permanently remove a monument or memorial would be looking at an annual allocation of over $1.8 million. It would cost the city $36.5 million to keep a monument removed for 20 years under this bill. In other pre-filing, Senate Bill 3, sponsored by State Senator Shay Shelnut, a Republican from Trussville, aims to require all public K-12 sex education initiatives to, quote, exclusively teach sexual risk avoidance. Senate Bill 4, also pre-filed by Shelnut, quote, would require each local board of education to implement a policy allowing elective credit to students who are released from the classroom to attend religious instruction during the school day. In similar news, a mandate to display the Ten Commandments in public schools did not pass this past year, and court challenges are likely if it ever does. Sponsored by Mark Gidley in the House and Senator Keith Kelly from Anniston, it would have required public K-12 schools to display an 11 by 14-inch poster of the Ten Commandments in common areas and classrooms where American history is taught, and the bill is likely returned next session. In maybe more exciting news, State Rep Marilyn Lands, a Democrat here in Huntsville, has pre-filed a bill for the 26th session that would give everyday citizens the power to initiate general laws and constitutional amendments. House Bill 14, titled Alabama We the People Act, would create a process for Alabama citizens to put forward proposals for new laws. Families of about 23,000 Alabama students can start using public funds for private education as of July 1st. The CHOOSE Act allows families to apply for up to $7,000 in education savings accounts that can be spent on private school tuition or homeschooling. The majority of approvals went to students currently enrolled in private school who plan to stay in private school, according to AO.com. In other education news, President Trump's attempt to freeze nearly $7 billion in congressionally approved federal education grants for personnel and after-school programs means Alabama schools will lose about $68 million. Richard Franklin, president of the Birmingham chapter of the American Federation of Teachers, said in an interview last week that the withholding of congressionally approved funds should have never happened in the first place. They're using our kids as political pawns to prove a point politically, when we should all be providing our kids with an education, he said.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
Senate Bill 305, sponsored by Senator Arthur Orr, Republican from Decatur, known as the RAISE Act, created additional funds to public schools based on weights like number of students in poverty or special education. While celebrated as a step in the right direction, supporters are already warning it may take time to notice results from the modest funding reform. The Decatur City Board of Education approved a 3% salary increase for all employees during a recent board meeting. Decatur City Schools said that the state didn't provide a raise to employees this year, so the school board made it a priority to provide an increase to employees themselves. Alabama fell 4 ranks in overall child well-being in the National Kids Count numbers released last week. Alabama ranks 43rd in overall child well-being, according to the data. That ranking is determined by 4 subgroups: economic well-being, education, health, and family and community. Alabama declined in all 4 indicators. Are you tired of winning yet? A federal judge heard arguments last week in a lawsuit alleging that the anti-DEI, or Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion law passed last year, violates the constitutional rights of professors and students. The suit, brought by professors and students in the University of Alabama system against Governor Ivey and the University of Alabama Board of Trustees, alleges that SB 129 stifled instructional activity and violated both the First and 14th Amendment rights of the plaintiffs. In court, we also learned that a University of Alabama professor and administrator accused a member of the Alabama State House of Representatives of threatening a fellowship program's budget if its curriculum was not changed to comply with the state law banning DEI programs and so-called divisive concepts. And last thing on the higher ed front, the University of Montevallo is raising tuition, laying off staff, and removing some academic programs as it works to address a multi-million-dollar budget shortfall. Lots of news around the justice system in the state, and starting here at home, the city of Huntsville has settled a federal lawsuit filed by a man who was tased and repeatedly stomped on by an officer while they attempted to arrest him at a MAPCO gas station back in 2021. An incident caught on camera that circulated widely on social media. The city of Huntsville has also agreed to pay an accident victim $25,000 to settle a lawsuit involving a police officer in a December 2022 car wreck. More than 200 folks gathered in Homewood for a vigil for Jabari Peoples, a teenager fatally shot by Homewood police on June 23rd, with the family demanding answers. An Etowah County woman who claimed she was forced to give birth without any medical help in a jail shower settled a federal civil rights lawsuit against the county, jail officials, and doctors last week. Governor Kay Ivey set an August execution date for David Lee Roberts, who was convicted of murder in 1992. Roberts, age 59, is scheduled to be put to death August 21st by nitrogen gas. He is the 4th person the state will put to death this year and the 3rd using that method of execution. The state judicial staff will conduct a review of fees imposed in Alabama's court system to better understand the financial issues faced by people going through the legal system, following a meeting of the Court Cost Task Force last week. The legal system is considered heavily reliant on fines and fees while remaining chronically underfunded. In related news, Lee Gwathney's controversial term as chair of the Alabama Board of Pardons and Paroles is ending, and we're not sure if she'll be reappointed. though Attorney General Steve Marshall has voiced his public support for her. The parole board has received criticism for not even complying with its own guidelines, and pardons and paroles have plummeted during her term. In other local news here, Kyle Luter, a former chairman of the Madison County Young Republicans and local influencer in GOP circles, is still facing charges for murder and sexual torture of a 54-year-old Harvest man. The Alabama Crime Victims Compensation Commission has approved a whopping payment of $731.33 to the victim's family in this case. The FBI detained 37 in an immigration raid at the $131 million Gulf Shore High School construction site down at the beach. Immigrants in Alabama facing possible deportation are less likely than many other states to have a lawyer, according to data reported on at AL.com. Moving into the economy, it was Made in the USA Day, apparently, on July 2nd, and Governor Ivey signed a formal proclamation celebrating Alabama's manufacturing community, which apparently accounts for 16% of Alabama's gross domestic product, with economic output exceeding $50 billion last year, supporting more than 290,000 jobs, at least according to the National Association of Manufacturers Industry Group. A WARN notice states that AT&T Alabama will be laying off employees in the Huntsville area. The notice shows that the company will lay off 73 employees starting in September. And in Alabama, new data shows that the under 18 population remained flat from 2020 to 2024 at about 1.13 million people. Meanwhile, the over 65 population grew from about 861,000 in 2020 to nearly 956,000 in 2024, an 11% increase. And in political news, State Rep Matt Woods, a Republican from Walker County, is moving up to the Senate after easily winning a special election for Senate District 5 against Democratic opponent Ryan Cagle. Voters in Tuscaloosa County will choose between the chair of the county's Democratic Party, Judith Taylor, and a Republican city councilman, Norman Crow, in a January special election for an Alabama House seat. This House District 63 seat opened up after Rep. Cynthia Allman resigned earlier this month to become president of the Alabama Public Service Commission. Former U.S. Senator Doug Jones has endorsed and plans to campaign for Democratic Alabama House candidate Alex Braswell, running in an August special election for a House District 11 in Coleman and Blount counties. New fundraising reports have come out, and Secretary of State Wes Allen has emerged as the fundraising frontrunner in the race for lieutenant governor. Meanwhile, Tommy Tuberville has raised over $350,000 since announcing his run for governor in late May. And finally, lots of fallout from the so-called Big Beautiful Bill, which we'll be covering in depth today from various angles. Both of Alabama's Republican senators, Tuberville and Katie Britt, supported it, along with the state's Republican congressional delegation, and the state's two Democrats in the House, Terry Sewell and Shamari Figures, both voted against it. Britt told CNN that proposed Medicaid and SNAP cuts will not affect Alabamians who truly need the services, and that this is about accountability. In Alabama, an average of about 750,000 people received SNAP benefits last year, which was a total of almost $1.8 billion, according to the Alabama Department of Human Resources. The bill also affects Medicaid, which in 2022 served more than 1 million Alabamians, including almost 57% of the state's children, and paid for half of the births in the state. At a press conference last week, Alabama Rise's Robin Hayden said the bill that passed would force Alabama and other states for the first time to help pay SNAP benefits that have been fully paid for by federal funds, which is a change that could cost the state up to $300 million a year. And there's no idea if the state will be able to cover that or will force cuts in other programs. There's also cuts to the Affordable Care Act subsidies, and there's estimates of nearly 200,000 Alabamians losing health coverage as a result of these changes. So a lot more to unpack there. You can go to alarise.org to see their full statement.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content
free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.